Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Podcast, where we help you unlock your potential freedom through land investing, real estate investing, and entrepreneurship. Hey everyone, this is episode 146 of the Real Estate Investing Podcast, discussing your initial investment to get started in land investing. I'm your host, Daniel Apke, joined again by my brother and business partner, Ron Apke. Before we get into the show, let's go over a question from one of our featured Discord members. Today's question is from AJ. AJ asked, what is the first step to getting an easement from a neighbor who agreed to give you an easement?
Really good question. This is a more advanced question for sure. Um, so what you're going to need to do, I typically suggest going through the title company, Dan, and talking with them and asking, because it is going to be different county to county. What is going to have to happen for them to legally give you access through their property and for it to be an insurable access is you need to have a title search done. The title company is going to need to do that on their property. So they can essentially what that does is they confirm that the neighbor actually owns their property outright. There's no chain issues in there, and they can legally sign over the easement or give you rights through an easement. So that is the first step. I suggest asking them exactly what's needed. They'll have to look into it to see if a new survey, sometimes, hopefully, ideally, they can write a legal description for your easement, and that can be done like that without needing a new survey. Sometimes they're going to require a survey, but it's going to be a situation by situation thing. What is going to have to happen is you can't just write up a document and say this person lets me go through them and then they sign it. That's not going to be insurable access. You need to actually go through the title company and do it correctly. It might be it's going to be most likely a separate easement document since it wasn't like conveyed over closing. So yeah, going through your title company is what I suggest, Dan.
Yeah, so what AJ's asking is pretty much his property doesn't have access, but he can get access through a neighboring property through an easement. An easement's just legal access if you don't have road frontage or legal access. So he's just going to go to the neighbor, say, hey, I want to buy an easement from you, or can you give me an easement just going through this first 50 feet or whatever the situation is, and get it on one of the sides of their properties to get him access, legal access back to his property. Other than that, Ron, let's get into today's show. Today's show is what kind of initial investment is needed to get into land flipping. We're going to break that down for you in different stages, guys, because there's different strategies. You can come in with $20,000 blast mail out, or you can come in with a couple $1,000s and take things kind of slower and more methodical and invest more in education up front and then save. There's just a lot of different ways of doing this is what I'm trying to say, Ron. And I think first, the first thing I want to point out, Ron, is spending money on marketing. Don't spend money on buying the deals. We're not going to buy a Desert Square if you have, $3,000 to your name. We're not going to spend $2,000 on some junk Desert Square to sell for 4,000. That's going to take you light years to get financially wealthy and independent, Ron. We're going to spend money on marketing, getting properties under market value, and then we have resources. Other people in the industry have resources to actually fund the deal, so you're not putting up your own money. And that's the beautiful thing about this. Spend money on marketing, spend your efforts and time finding deals under market value, and then bring the deals to a deal funder who pays for it and then split the profit. That's the first thing I wanted to call out before resuming this episode, Ron.
Absolutely. So if you're thinking about getting into this, contemplating whatever it is, talking with your significant other, wherever you are in the situation, uh, do not like calculate like, okay, I need to buy a $10,000 property to make some money. Like that is not the case. You do not need that much money to get started. You do not have to worry about buying the properties. If you can find a way, we do it mostly via direct mail. If you can find a way to get good deals, the funding aspect, I don't want to say is easy, but if you do your back work, like you won't have trouble getting funding if you find good deals and do your due diligence and all that stuff promptly.
Exactly. So, talking about it first, what you guys want to do, and you guys have started this part if you're listening to this podcast, you're investing in education. It's a time commitment for you guys listening to this podcast. But if you're just starting out, you need to find forms of education. We have a free Discord you can network. We do free calls. There's a lot of different free resources, and there's a lot of paid resources if you are serious about this and want to take it to the next level. But the first thing you have to do is invest, whether it's time or money or both, into education, because that's going to save you a lot of money in the long term instead of trying to do it all yourself. So I wanted to throw that out there. But let's talk about, Ron, if going the mail route. We're going to split this up kind of mail and texting and then hybrid. And the
Yep.
hybrid's what we recommend, right? You're doing some mail, you're doing some texting, you're doing both to get the most deals. That's probably the most efficient way to do it. And there's pros and cons of both methods. Texting's obviously more affordable, but it's not free run. Mail's obviously more expensive, but it's scalable and much more efficient. So there's pros and cons to both, Ron. And let's talk about mail first.
Yeah. So, like you said, we're talking about the expense of it, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so if you're going the mail route and this is going to be the fastest return in my mind, even though it takes some time for the mail to get out and everything. I know the data so well on mail and what you're going to see back. And like we've talked about quite a bit, it's the most efficient way to get land deals from what we've seen. So yeah, what we suggest typically is probably around $3,000 to $5,000 after education costs to invest in mail. And what this is going to give you, this is going to give you around 3,000 mailers for 3 months. It's going to get you per month. It's going to get you that second deal. And like Daniel said, you don't have to worry about the money for funding or anything like that. You just need to worry about getting good deals. And what 9,000 mailers can do for you is get you multiple deals. It has a chance to get you five, six deals for sure and profit you $100,000. That being said, on a more realistic thing, like it's going to get you two deals and that's going to jumpstart you into having more profit coming in where you can reinvest. So that initial investment, hopefully, that will be only the only initial investment that you really need. So that's what I kind of look at, Dan, around $5,000.
For mail, about $5,000 is optimal. You can come in with less and try to really, really finesse and take advantage of all your leads coming in, try to really vet them. So you can do it with less, but yeah, 5,000 is a really, really good amount to get started, I think, for mail. And going into texting, Ron, so I'm just thinking of the different platforms. So direct skip. So when you're texting, you have a few different expenses, right? You have you have to pull your data, which is, around 10 cents. So you're pulling your data from we use data tree, and then you have to skip trace it. That's another 10 cents or so, depending on what you're using. We use direct skip. If you guys are interested in checking out direct skip and what they have, we provide 500 free records. If you guys go to landinvestingonline.com/direct skip, you'll get 500 free pools every single month, I believe. And that's going to actually get you the phone numbers and everything you need. And that's about 10 cents per record after that 500 free ones go away. And then you have the platform you're actually texting off of. And the two charges that you might see with a texting company is a monthly subscription and or by text. So you can pay by each text message. And like launch control that we use is $500, around $500 a month. So what I'm getting at, it's not cheap to text, but you get 10,000 texts a month with that 500. So if you're pushing that upper limit, it does make sense financially. So you're, like 30 cents in or something like that, Ron, depending on how much, and it's just not the same efficiency we see. That being said, if you guys are really good salespeople and you're really good on the phone, texting might be the route to go because you're going to get more conversations and you're going to save a couple dollars. It's just you're not going to get the same results on the back end. The profit's going to shrink.
So you think it's like 30 cents per, if you max that out, like 30 cents, is that correct? Is that what you're kind of thinking? Like
Well,
10,000 texts
probably
is going
less
to
than
cost
that. Do
3,000.
do the math. So 10 cents data no matter what. Let's just call it that. And
Yeah.
then direct skip, let's say another 10 cents, you're at 20. And then we can send, it's going to be probably low to mid 20s, I would guess. It depends
Yeah.
how many, 500 a month, Ron, $500. If you're maxing that out at 10, if you're sending 10,000 out a month, which most
Yeah.
people
So that's
won't do, that's going to,
$2,500. Yeah.
yeah. And that's, most people won't send 10,000 though. That's a
Yeah.
lot. So
So if you're doing 5,000, but that's not going to save you money on the $500. So you're spending $500 and a thousand. So you're spending 1,500 bucks on 5,000 text. Um, Yeah, I mean, it's definitely cheaper, like, there's no doubt. We're still kinda compiling data on the effectiveness and the scalability and trying to get processes. We know it can be effective, like, we have no doubt that texting can be effective, but there's ways to do it where you are not taking hours and hours and hours of manpower every week to kinda manage it and manage bad leads. Because that's what we don't do with mail, Dan. We don't manage bad leads. Bad leads, we don't talk to them ever. They call our answering service and they complain and then it's over. Texting is a little different with that, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're going to be spending a lot of time managing employees or doing it yourself, but you cannot scale this business. You need VAs and employees to text. Period. Do not go into texting without having a plan to get a VA. You're going to be swamped, overwhelmed, and letting leads fall through the crack. You need help on the texting side. So that's another expense. We didn't talk about the manpower behind it and the time. We're
Yeah.
just talking pure numbers here. Mail's so scalable because you send them out and get those leads back, filter through the garbage leads and do all that over again, Ron. But texting, it's like we got to put a lot of work just to get someone on the phone. We got to text them, maybe send follow up text, maybe have a conversation over text, get them on the phone. They didn't answer, get them again on the phone, negotiate, call them back in a week. It's just a lot of stuff in between.
For sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. And Daniel's more knowledgeable about the whole texting stuff, and he's kind of taking on that project and trying to create content for you guys to help you guys out with that because we do understand the different investment. And there is like, if you're willing to grind, Dan, I think like texting can be, and you don't have as much upfront money, it's somewhere in between cold calling and mail in terms of obviously the upfront spend that you need and then again, it's sometimes it's as you spend more money, guys, in this business, you're gonna need less time. So if you spend money on mail, you're gonna need less time. If you spend money on texting, you're gonna need less time than if you're cold calling to get deals. So I think it's just trading money for time or trading your time for money, which is fine at first to get started and bootleg off the ground.
And at the end of the day, Ron, it's about reaching vacant land owners and whatever method of doing that to getting those under market value properties works. It's great. So I like all the options. All of them can work. Cold calling can work. You're not going to make much money cold calling with your time, but if you get a dialer, VAs to call, and all this other method, like it's all about the systems and the process behind it. Ron, if we were just sending, maybe neutral letters or different type of letters to acquire land without the data behind it, we might not be as efficient. But the way we do things, how we learned it, is extremely efficient, Ron. How we're teaching it, and same thing for texting. Like there's good and bad ways to go about it for this business model. There's efficient and non-efficient ways. So it's about dialing in the systems and processes, Ron. But what I kind of recommend getting started. So if you come in and you have money, right? You have some money, you're not worried about the lowest commitment. I would send mail and I'd also do some follow-up text. That's probably the first thing I would do. Send your mail, landowner receives mail, landowner gets a text 1 week after receiving mail, nudging them saying, "Hey, our offer expires in 1 week. Wanted to see if you could hop on a call to discuss or see what questions I could answer. We can close in 2 weeks," something like that. And I just made that up out of the blue. Don't use that line exactly. But yeah, I think, and then that would get the conversation starting. You might reach people who didn't open the mail as well. I think kind of make creating some sort of hybrid system. But then again, you're going to have a lot of responses. And if you're working in 9 to 5, like it may not be optimal to do that. So it all depends what resources you have and what time you have. And resources of time. So money and time are the two main things.
For sure, and members are probably asking, like, "What are you guys suggesting follow-up now?" So, that's something Daniel's working on as far as putting to get correct Dan, to kind of we're trying to get this organized so it's correctly, put out so you guys aren't just spending money on text. We don't wanna be spinning wheels, we wanna find out the best way to get you guys more deals, but that's something you're working on, right, Dan?
Yeah, and it's easy to do, but like I said, you don't wanna start texting and begging people for phone calls if you can't get on the phone and actually negotiate. You gotta work on your sales, get aggressive on sales. If you're introvert and you don't wanna get on the phone and you're, not the best on the phone, mail is gonna be the most efficient thing, but you can always get better, right? You can take your C minus, D plus sales and get, a B plus and wiggle some deals because you put your resources and time into getting better at that. If you're super aggressive and you're going to vet these leads and really attack each lead coming in and negotiate and get really good at that, texting can be a really, really good, efficient solution, Ron. There are hustlers out there that can do really, really good once they get on the phones.
For sure. No, I've seen it not necessarily with text, but just those different types of salespeople that like just don't let any deal slip through the cracks. Like they're going to do everything and to make it a deal. So yeah, I mean, I think sales, no matter how you're getting your leads, being a great salesperson or a good salesperson is gonna get you more deals and make you more money.
Always. So let's talk about, so we got deals back. We just talked about the price to get in. So you need a couple $1,000s, $1 to $2,000 probably. You said 1,500, Ron, for texting. The key is to break through the ice,
Yeah.
guys. Like the key is to break through the ice, get a little profit under yourself, and then reinvest it, because that's like it's hard when you're going down that rabbit hole and you're so limited on funds. We got to vet the leads properly. We want to get a deal, right? Try to get a deal out of it, and then and take those profits and reinvest them, Ron, with whatever we do. Once you're through the ice and you have some extra profit, the game gets easier and easier. There's just more,
Oh,
risk and things willing to go on behind the scenes, Ron, where you can reinvest it more and more into mail and deals. But let's talk about, so we got the deals, Ron. Let's talk about how we get deal funding. So obviously, the average person can't just put up 75 grand for a land deal that's going to sell for 180.
yeah.
So what are we going to do?
Yeah, so you gotta hopefully you're in our Discord. If you're not, landinvestingonline.com/discord, and you'll get a email with that link to get in our Discord community. Reaching out to people in Discord, being a part of the community, like members, and me and Daniel included, like in terms of like funding partners, like we pay attention to even non-members who are being active in the community. And if they do eventually need funding, like I feel confident funding their deals. So being active in there, I think that is the best way to get funding. Landinvestingonline.com/deal funding as well. And that's where you actually will submit your deal. We'll review it. We'll get back to you within 24 hours or so if we can fund it. So yeah, those are the ways that we kind of do them.
Yeah, and you can bring good deals, but you have to be good as well. Like, you have to be on top of it, doing the due diligence, getting all the answers. You can't just have a good deal and be
Yep.
like, "Here, fund this." We don't have any information. Like, it's got to work both ways, guys. So get your information done. If you guys have a good deal and you guys are putting in the work and have your due diligence done, your deals will be able to get paid for, right? Landinvestingonline.com/deal funding will pay for them if it's a good deal and you have the proper due diligence done. But there are so many other funders in the group. Explore your options. There's just a lot of money in the group. The cycle of land investing, Ron, it's like you start out with, like we're saying, with very little money, $2,000, and you put that into texting and mail, and you get one deal, and then you make, buy for 20, sell for 45, split that. You make 14, 15 grand, something like that, depending on your profit splits. Put 5 more grand of that in the profit, then you make another 30, 40 grand, and you're putting it back in and it's coming out. And then all of a sudden you're 12 months in and you have 500 grand in your bank account or 300 grand cash in your bank. You're like, what do I do with all the money? I don't have enough deals to pay for my own to pay for, I have extra, a surplus of cash, Ron. I can pay for my own, plus have a ton of extra. So what you do is you go find deals. You use your knowledge to leverage other people's deals and your expertise. So you can underwrite these mentally, be like, okay, this is a risk I'm willing to take for Joe's deal over here. I can put in my 50 grand in the Joe's deal and then we're going to split profits. So that's kind of the cycle. You start with nothing, get deal funding, start paying for some yourself, and then eventually what a lot of people do is they fund other people's deals. So that's always an option. That's kind of the cycle why there's so much money in the group, Ron, because it's extremely lucrative business model.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. You breaking that down like that's perfect. And that it can happen that fast, guys. If with you getting deal funding, like you can turn your, like we said, $5,000 if you're doing mail, a few thousand if you're doing texting, probably like you can turn that into 100, 200, $500,000 within 12 months. Not going to say it's easy by any means, but it's more than possible. And like we always talk about, this is a level 10 opportunity, business opportunity.
If you stick to the script, follow, you know, stay consistent, follow through, send your mail, send your text, get on the phones, put your time and money into the right places like we teach, Ron. It's going to happen. Like, if you stay consistent and you're sending a consistent amount of mail, that profit will come back, and you'll, in 12 months, 6 months, you'll be in a completely different spot than starting out with $2,000. Let's just put it that way. As always, thank you for joining. Please do us a huge favor and like and subscribe our YouTube channel and share this with a friend. It really means the world to Ron and I, but more importantly, it could help change the life of someone else. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next episode.